It's time to get creative with Cassie. Welcome to my paper studio. Today we're going to be doing a from scratch junk journal cover and spine. So it's going to be similar to this journal that I have here. So anyway, it's made in 5 parts and then you put it together and you construct it. And I really like doing my journals this way because one, it makes your cover sturdier. Your spine is more secure in here, and there's just a bunch of different ways you can use your spine. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Supplies you're going to need are scoreboard, your ink, some glue. This is just my scoring tool, a trimmer of some sort. Let me get these out of the way. And then for the other supplies, you're going to want some fabric or some digital kits or something like that you want your cover made out of. Let me just fix y'all real quick. And then you're going to want some sort of bookboard, cardboard, chipboard, or something. I have this cardstock that is the extra heavyweight craft cardstock, and I find that by the time you get 2 layers of this put together, it's pretty sturdy, and I'm okay with that. So the first thing I'm going to do, now there's a couple of different ways you can do this. When I made this journal, let me just lay it out here for you so you can see it. When I made this journal, I just took my piece of heavyweight cardstock and I laid it out and I collaged on it, and then I went back and I stamped on it, and then I put some washi tape on it, and then after that I sealed it with matte medium. And then once it dried, I went back in and I cut it in half. So I did the full 8.5 by 11 sheet. And then I cut it in half once it was dried. And then I went around it and did my stitching. So that's one way to do it, is to just make the full sheet if you're going to collage it like this. But in the example I'm going to make, we're actually going to cut our pieces before we decorate them. So I've just got, my apologies about the dogs. But anyway, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sheets here that I'm going to use. 2 of them is going to be for the front and back, and 2 of them is going to be for the spine. So let's start with the front and back. I am going to take these, and I already know that I want my journal to be the regular 8.5 by 11 folded in half, okay? So when you take your 8.5 by 11 and you fold it in half, you want your pieces to be 5.5. So I'm just going to cut this. I've got both sheets here at 5.5. So now I have 4 pieces that are 8.5 tall by 5.5 wide. 2 of these are going to be inside covers and 2 are going to be outside covers. So I'm going to start with my inside covers first, and that's where our papers come in play. So I chose these papers for my inside covers. Now, and the reason I'm doing it the way I'm doing it now is because I want to be able to put this on here and then trim around it a little bit and fold my pages in. So I'm just going to take this and we're going to glue it down. And your gluing on this does not have to be all the way up to the edge or anything like that, because we are going to stitch around it. Now, if you're not going to stitch around it, you want to make sure you pay pretty close attention to getting your glue all the way to the edges and stuff. Okay. So, now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to eyeball this and trim some off, leaving about 1/2 inch or so of paper. Okay. Do the same thing on the top. Keep your scraps so you can use them elsewhere in your journal. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to pre-fold these. So there's the bottom, and then do the same thing on the top and the same thing on the sides. Okay, so now I'm going to come in here with my scissors and I'm just going to not quite go all the way to my corner, but I'm going to leave a little bit like that and just miter the corners. This is going to allow us to fold our paper in without having a bunch of bulk in the corner. So that's why I like to come back and do this step. And now we're just going to take our glue and glue these flaps down. Again, if you're sewing, you don't have to be as cautious where your glue's going. If you're not sewing, make sure you get it all the way to the edges. Okay. So I like to do opposite sides. Just that way it's kind of a neater, cleaner look. Okay, one more side. Okie doke. So that's what we're working with for this piece, and this is a directional page, so I want to make sure I keep it going the right direction. But as you can see, by mitering those corners, I have nice clean cut corners. There's no extra bulk or anything, and it's good to go. So I'm going to do the same thing with this piece of paper and this cover, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my inside covers papered. Now I'm going to go around them with my ink. I am just using the Vintage Photo Distress ink. I know you guys know how to ink, but I just figured, why not? Just show them all the steps. I hope everybody is doing well today. I hope you're all able to get some crafting time in. So after we get done inking these, we're going to take them to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch on them. Now, This step is completely optional. You don't have to stitch on them. I like the look of it. I think it gives it a more professional and finished look, so that is my personal preference, but you can do it however you want. But I'm going to save all of my sewing for towards the end. So now I'm going to set these aside, let that glue dry a little bit, and we'll focus on our other two covers. Now these two covers are going to be the outside pieces. So I'm going to do these the same, but different, okay? So I have chosen these two pages and these two pages. And the reason I have 4 pages for this one is because these pages go vertically, and these could go vertically or horizontal. So what I'm going to do is take this page and do exactly the same thing we did for our inside pieces. So I'm going to put glue on here. And I don't know if I said this earlier or not, but I'm just using my art glitter glue. Again, I am not being precise or anything with my glue because I know I'm going to stitch. So, same thing. Put your cardstock or cardboard or whatever down on the paper. Cut around it and then fold your sides in. Remembering to miter those corners. And this is a pretty thin cardstock, so I don't have to worry about leaving too much of a space. The thicker your material is, the bigger space you want to leave when you're mitering your corners. So, just fold that up. Fold this, and then the sides. And this is actually a pretty quick way to make a journal cover. And it's, I find it a relaxing process because it's not that difficult to do. Ever since I learned how to do journals this way, when I do a hardbound journal, it seems like this is what I always come to, is to bind it this way. Or, you know, attach the spine or whatever you want to call it. So, again, I'm just going to glue these down. You go opposite ends first. Squeaky paper today. Alrighty. Okay, now this, remember, is our front piece. Our outside pieces. We'll call them inside pieces, outside pieces. These are the outside pieces. And we're doing these a little bit different because our one page is a horizontal page instead of a vertical page. Okay, so I'm going to take this that I've now papered and I'm going to ink it up using the same ink. And you could use fabric on these and you would do it exactly the same way as I'm doing the paper. You would just leave enough fabric around the outside of your base piece to fold over, Okay, so it appears that the flower's going kind of this way on this one. So we'll do that. So now I'm going to bring in my vertical piece. And I'm going to get a bit of a smaller trimmer out so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so this piece is already 8.5 tall. So it's exactly the height of my cover. And I don't want that for the paper. That's why I decided to put a base paper down, because I wanted to be able to fold my ends over to finish the sides of it off. So I know this is 5.5 wide, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to do, there's 5. I'm gonna go to 5.5 and then back it up 2 lines. So we're gonna do like 5 1/4 is what we're doing. Okay, so 5 1/4, and then this is 8.5, so I want to take 1/4 inch off of it. Yeah. Okay. So what we've just done is made this slightly smaller than our cover itself. So now I'm going to take this and ink around it. And the only reason I'm doing it this way is because this page is not tall enough to wrap around the edges of my cardstock that I'm using for the base. So I wanted the nice finished edges by wrapping the paper around it. But I really wanted this as the cover, so that's why I put this piece in between. And the layering of the papers is just going to sturdy your cover up even more. So, just going to go in with my glue. This one I am being a little bit more mindful of making sure I get it to the edge, because I don't know how exactly I'm going to stitch on this one yet. I don't know if I'm going to do a straight stitch around this to frame it more, or if I want to do a zigzag stitch. We'll figure that out when we go to the sewing machine. So, when you lay this down, be quick, because we're working with that art glitter glue. You want to try and get it centered to where you have about the same amount showing on all sides. Not perfect, but good enough for me. Okay, so then there's one of our outside covers. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to make the other outside cover, and then I'll be right back and I'll show you how we put them together. Okie doke. So, like I said, I just repeated the same exact process. I took my paper, cut it down to 5 1/4. Took 1/4 inch off the height of it, so it's now 8 1/4 instead of 8.5 tall. I did the same exact image on both the front and the back. I just do that because I like things to match. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. And then I got my inside pieces. So now what I want to do is put my spine together. So we're going to set our covers out of the way. And we're going to bring in our other 2 pieces of card that we set aside. And we're going to decide how big we want our spine. So I don't know how big and chunky this journal is going to be, because I haven't even created signatures or anything yet. So I'm just going to go with a basic 2-inch spine. I want to have 1.5 inches on each side of that. So that's 2, 3, 4. I need 5 inches wide. So I'm going to get my big cutter in here, and I do apologize. You can't probably see the bottom of it, but I'm just going to cut me 2 pieces that are 5 inches wide by the 8.5 tall. Okay. So here are my 2 pieces. Did I cut one wrong? Ruh-roh. Is this, one of these is the wrong direction. This is 9, so I need to cut this down to 8.5. It's an easy fix. Easy peasy. Now I'm going to use a little bit stronger glue because this is our spine. So I'm going to use my Fabri-Tac. And because I boo-booed and made one taller than the other, I'm going to put my glue on the smaller piece. They're both 5 inches wide. It's just one's too tall. By like 1/2 inch, so no big deal. Easy fix. Okay, I'm making sure I'm putting plenty of glue on it. Because like I said, this is our spine. We do not want it coming apart on us. And then I'm just going to line it up. Give it a nice press. You have a nice big bone folder or a brayer. Now would be a good time to use it. I couldn't think of the word there for a minute. I want to make sure all my edges are nicely together. And then I'm going to take my scissors and cut this extra 1/2 inch off that we have. And that's why I glued it together first, because it's real easy to just follow the line of the cardstock now and get that there. And then I've got a little extra on this side. And if it's not perfectly 5 inches, that's not going to make much of a difference. Okay. Now, this I don't think is going to be 100% dry, but we're going to go for it anyway. So I want my spine in the middle to be 2 inches. And so I measured this at 5. So if I have 2 inches, that means I have 1, 2, 3 extra inches. So I'm going to come in here at 1.5 inches. And I'm going to score it. And that totally did not go straight. And neither did that one. Or did that one go straight? I think that one is straight. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do 1.5 inches again. Okay, I'm just going to do it a few times. That way it's a nice prominent line, because we're going through 2 layers of this extra heavy cardstock. So I've got that. Let's measure. Make sure it's 2 inches like we want it to be. And it is. So we can go ahead and bend this a little bit now, or we can wait for it to completely dry. I don't see much of a difference in waiting for it to dry or bending it now, other than your paper may slide a little bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put this on here, line up one of my lines, and I'm going to come over, I don't know, a 1/2 inch, okay? This is lined up with a solid inch. I'm going to come in 1/2 inch, draw a line. Do the same thing on the bottom. You want a 1/2 inch and then a 1/2 inch. And what we're going to do now is where you made that 1/2 inch, you're going to cut your corner. This is just going to take some of the bulk away. Okay. Okay. So now you need to decide what you want to cover your spine in. I have not made that decision yet. Let me see what I have. One moment. Alrighty, so I am back and I forgot my glue. One moment. I think I'm ready now. So I found this piece of pink gingham. I think it'll go really cute with the kit. The kit has a lot of pink and stuff in it. So when you get to this point, this is where you need to stop and think. So you need to ask yourself, do I care if my sewing from my signatures show? So on my other journal that I'm working on, my signatures, when I stitched them in, you can see the stitching from that. So if you don't like this look, then don't worry about covering your spine right now. What you would do is cover the inside of your spine and then sew your signatures in and then cover the outside of your spine. I don't mind if my sewing from my signatures show, so I'm just going to go ahead and cover my spine. Now, you're going to think I'm crazy because I'm going to put this down with glue stick. Now, the reason I'm using glue stick is because A, this is a pretty good glue stick. It is by Avery. It's the disappearing purple. I don't know, but it's pretty decent glue stick. So I'm going to use it. Plus, I'm doing stitching on mine, so that's going to help hold my fabric in place as well. The reason I want to use the glue stick versus a wet glue like Fabri-Tac or Art Glitter is because the material I'm working with is a pretty thin material, and I don't want the glue seeping through and showing. So I've got that all gluey with my glue stick, and I've got strings sticking to me now. I'm just going to place my spine on here. As you can see, my fabric is just wide enough for my spine. There's just a tad of overhang on it. Going to push it on both sides, make sure it is well adhered. Alrighty. So now I'm going to glue this side, and then we're going to fold the fabric over. So just fold it up. Make sure you're pulling it nice and tight, but you don't want to pull it so tight that it's curling your spine. you want it nice and flat. Okay, fold this side up. Again, making sure it's tight, but not too tight. Okay, now I'm going to bring my bone folder in, and I'm just going to give it a nice smoosh, sandwich all that together. Okay, now I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to cut where we angled these. Okay, one more. All right. And because we are going for that distressed look, well, I'm going to get rid of these little threads. They're driving me crazy over here. Okay. Okay. So, where this comes together, like so, it overlaps a little bit. I'm going to make this the inside, so that that's not showing on the outside. I mean, it's not a huge deal if it were to show on the outside, but I just want to keep the outside nice and clean. So I'm just going to fold this up like so. Flip it over, start creasing this side a little bit. Then I'm going to come in with a little bit of ink, and you'll see why the little bit of ink now is important. So I'm just going to ever so slightly ink it on the crease, and then on this crease, and then I'll do the top and the bottom, and then I'll do the top and bottom of the inside as well. Okay, so now what you want to do at this point is sew everything. So you have your spine, you have your two inside covers and your two outside covers. Now, take everything to your sewing machine and sew it if that's what you choose to do. And I'm going to do a straight stitch around the inside of my paper on here. And then I'll probably just stick with the straight stitch on the inside covers as well, and on the outside cover, or my spine, should I say. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to line my foot up with this crease right here and stitch down that and then up that. And that's why I said it's important to ink it now so that you can see where those folds are going to be. Okay, so I'm going to take all this to my sewing machine, I'm going to stitch it, and I'll be back. Everything is sewed. Like I said, I just went around this with a straight stitch. Normally I do zigzag, but I thought I would do straight stitch on this time. So now we can start assembling our cover. So you got to remember what's what and where you want it. So these are pretty much both the same. It doesn't matter which one you put where. So I'm going to use my Fabri-Tac for this. And you want to make sure that you can see where your fold is, because we're not going all the way up to the fold. We're just going right before the fold. That way you have room for it to fold in half, okay? Or close up, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to put my glue on this piece, and I am going to use a good amount of glue because this is what's holding our journal together at this point. Well, this point in the whole lifespan of this journal. So, lots of glue. Make sure you get it to the edges. When you think you have enough glue, add just a little bit of extra. Okay, now we're going to take our front cover and I'm going to line it up top and bottom, making sure I'm staying about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch away from that fold. So see, if I were to fold this right now, it folds just fine. I'm not going to fold it completely right now because you want it to dry first. So give it a good press from this side. Again, make sure you keep your top and bottom lined up. Press it from this side, and then we're going to do the same thing for the back cover. Making sure we know right where that is at. I like working from this side of my book, so I always flip it upside down. Again, use lots of glue. Alrighty. Again, same thing with this side. Make sure you keep it a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch away. Make sure you've got that top and bottom lined up because that's what's going to make your book nice and straight. When you have it where you want it, give it a nice press. Again, from both sides. Alrighty. I'm going to put the glue lid back on for right now because there's another step. So, we've got our outside, front, and back cover on. And now what we have to do is think about our closure. So, if you want to put through here a closure like so, you can do that. Or you can do just a wraparound closure when you're done with your book or whatever. I want to put in a tie closure with this pink ribbon. So I'm going to make sure I have plenty of it. And then I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to get my centering ruler. We know these are 8.5 inches tall, so 8.5 and 8.5 is 4 1/4. So I've got this at 4 1/4 and 4 1/4. I'm going to mark it on either side. Do the same thing. Mark the center. Alrighty. Now, I'm going to start applying some glue where I've made those marks. Okay, I'm going to put the center of my ribbon towards the center of my journal. That way, we've got about the same amount on either side of our book. I'm just going to put some glue through the center here. You are going to be able to see this ribbon behind your pages. So if you don't like that, then you can cut, you know, like, I don't know, an 8-10 inch piece and put it on either side so that you don't have this running through the middle. But it's not going to bother me running through the middle like that. In fact, I think it'll be cute. Alrighty, find the top of your journal. So I've got my top up, and figure out which piece you want on the front and which piece you want on the back. I'm going to put this one on the front and this one in the back. So now what you're going to do is you're going to put a really good amount of glue all over your inside piece. This Fabri-Tac comes out pretty slow. But you want to take your time with this. You want to make sure you're getting it to the edge, because this is what's going to hold your cover together. So take your time, don't rush it. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, since we know that our front covers are lined up with our fold and our spine, we're just going to line our corners up. All right. So I got my corners lined up. I got the top and bottom lined up. Everything is looking good. Make sure you go around your edges and pinch. A lot of this has probably been out of frame, and I do apologize for that, but it's hard when you're working on, you know, a big cover or something. You're going to do the same thing with your other side. Sorry, I didn't mean to rock your world there. Anyway, same thing as the other side. Make sure you get lots of glue on your edges. If you want to go back and put little clips around this to hold them together while they're drying, you can do that. It'll help. You could also set it underneath a heavy object or under a stack of books or something. Something that's going to keep it flat. Alright, let's get some glue in the middle. I just love making journal covers this way. They're so easy, and everything goes together so nicely, and when you're at the end of it, you know all of your stuff's gonna, you know, line up and be the same, and you know you're gonna have a nice sturdy book. I got a little bit of Fabri-Tac on my fingers. I don't want to get it on the paper. So again, just making sure you've got your corners lined up, your top and your bottom's good. Go around pinching, making sure it adheres. Bring in your big bone folder. This will help spread your glue around too, to make sure everything's coated. Alrighty. So, If you want to add anything like to the front of your cover, say you want to put a book plate on here with brads on it or something like that, do that before you add your inside covers. That way you can hide the back of the brad. So I have put brads in the corners here before just to make it look, you know, a little bit more fancy. If you want to do something like that, you can. Like I said, just do it before you add your inside covers. Now, I'm going to let mine dry for a while, and I'm probably going to clip it, but you guys know how to clip it, so I won't show doing that or anything. But that is how you get a really nice cover for your journal, and it takes, you know, not very long at all, and it's a nice sturdy journal. So anyway, I thank you for watching today. If you liked this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And also hit that notification bell. That way you are notified every time I upload a new video. I appreciate each and every one of you, and thank you for being here with me today. And until next time, remember to make today your own and be creative. Bye-bye.